Oh, I'm in second split. Yeah, I mean, I've got to go for the win. I think, I mean, it is the first race, but I just need to maximize points at every available opportunity. So I need to get the best result I can here. If I improve my iRating to get into top split for the next race, and then I can maybe get even more points. But I've got to go for the win here to maximize the amount of points I've got. This video is brought to you by all the scumbags listed on the scumbags page of my website. Big thank you to everyone listed there for your long time and extra support. So, hello everyone and welcome to the final round of the Season 4 2022 iRacing Touring Car season, and we're back on Laguna Seca, which was actually the very first track I ever raced a touring car on way back when I was trying out new things in episode 28. And we come into this final round in quite a surprising position. That is, with the potential to actually win a championship. We'll talk more about it during the first race, but as we watch my qualifying laps, which I honestly didn't feel were particularly good, the upshot of it was that coming into this round, I was in second place in the Division 4 Championship for the fixed setup touring car series, 3 points down on the guy who'd just taken the lead by scoring 90 points in one of his final races at Laguna Seca. So with the best 8 rounds counting to your overall championship, and my worst result that still counted being 63 points coming into this race, I needed 67 points or higher from either of the 2 races that I'd be doing to regain the championship lead, but obviously the more points the better. As I've talked about before, the championship points are kind of a mixed bag, and depending on whether you're in the top split or in a further down split, and depending on the relative strength of field of each split of drivers, the points will be different that are dished out. For example, finishing top 10 in a strong top split race would yield significantly more points than winning a weak second split race. But as I was in second split for this first race, I couldn't do anything more than try to win. I had to maximise what was available to me and just hope that it was enough points at the end that I would regain that championship lead. But honestly, I wasn't feeling too good after the first qualifying lap. I had my eye on the lap times in the top left and saw that after the first lap I was being beaten by the number 1 ranked guy in the session, and then he further improved as I was nearing the end of my second lap. And I just didn't feel good about my second lap either. I could definitely drive quicker than what I did on these qualifying laps, but the pressure was really on with a championship on the line. Choked up on that second lap. That could have been a lot better.
Chicken flag, chicken flag.
Did I actually go quicker? Paul! I actually got it! Nice. That second lap felt so slow. I can't believe I actually got pole position. God, everything's going in slow motion. Can we just start the race already? Can we just be at the end of the race? The pressure's on, man. So the pressure was indeed on, but I'd managed to surprisingly stick it on pole, and I then managed to get a great launch off the line to maintain the lead from the start. And even better for me when I looked back is that Reese, who you might remember from the previous round at the Red Bull Ring, had managed to get up into second place. So he's a community member and was basically acting as my teammate in this race. He qualified in third place, and because he got up into second, I essentially didn't need to worry about him attacking me early on, and I was free to run my own race. The top ranked guy in the session actually dropped down to fourth place as well, which was absolutely perfect. But there was naturally a lot on the line here, and I was a little nervous, especially in the first few laps. It took me a bit of time to settle in. I'd basically done all the hard work at this point. I'd qualified it on pole position, I got into the lead at the start of the race, and I had essentially my teammate behind me to back me up. But I still had to do 10 laps cleanly and actually convert this race to a race win to maximise the points from this first race. The first few laps were alright, but then I started to have a little bit of a wobble around laps 4 and 5 because I was focusing way too much on the gaps to the drivers behind in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. The gap to Reese was staying pretty consistent, but we were both pulling away from everyone else, so I really had nothing to worry about. But After a small mistake which lost me a decent chunk of time, I realised what I was doing, focusing too much on the times, and I stopped looking at it all and just instead focused on the driving and maximising what I knew I could do in terms of lap times in the car. And that's when the lap times actually did start to come, and I was able to start pulling away from everybody, Reese included. But the question then was whether I could avoid any major mistakes or chokes. So while all that plays out, I want to talk a little bit more about how these championships work. Basically, everything is underpinned by iRating, which is essentially a measure of your skill to a certain extent anyway. If you do well in races, your iRating goes up. If you do badly, it goes down. It's what determines the split of drivers that you put into as well for the races, as it tries to keep similarly skilled drivers together, and it's also what determines which division you put into at the beginning of an iRacing season, of which there are 4 every year. Now, I'd had a relatively poor touring car season last season. For those who are watching, you probably saw. It was my first full season in the championship, and while I'd had some decent moments, in general I struggled, and towards the end I had a number of difficult races, whether being taken out or making my own mistakes. So coming into this season, I was placed into Division 4 because that's where my iRating dictated that I should be. There's 9, and there might actually be 10 divisions in total, by the way. But it's not really something that I thought of. I was just planning to do another full season of touring cars, focusing on the fixed setup series as I did before, and just tried to do better than I'd done the previous season. But if you've been watching, you may remember in a previous episode, around halfway into the season, I made a random off-the-cuff comment that I'd actually realised I was leading the Division 4 Championship for the fixed setup touring car series after what had been a really good start to the season. Now, at the time, I didn't think it would last, but it was just sort of a nice thing to have and a nice thing to sort of mention. Well, it did last, surprisingly, and I ended up leading the championship all the way up until this final round. Other names had popped up as challengers over time, but I seemed to be able to consistently score well to basically stay on top. The only time I was ever behind in the championship was right here at the very end, where, as I said earlier, I was 3 points down after the previous second placed guy had done his Laguna Seca races, but I hadn't. Now, the way that the championships work is that it takes your best 8 results from the season. After my high points score from last week at Red Bull Ring, my 44 points from round 9, which was in the video titled A Rare Misfire and I had a really bad round, those were no longer counting, so those 44 points didn't matter. And I'd also missed round 3 intentionally because I didn't own the track, but I also ended up missing round 10 at Road America unintentionally due to illness. I wasn't feeling very well, I couldn't do that round. This meant that coming into this final race, 63 points from round 4, which was the round where I had some struggles at Road Atlanta, was my lowest point score that was still counting to my overall total. That's what I could improve upon. If I scored 63 points or below in this final round, then my overall total wouldn't change because it's just taking your best 8. I needed higher than 63 points to improve my overall score, and I needed 67 points to retake the lead of the championship. As a quick little aside here, round 8 was the crazy Nürburgring race that I almost didn't do, and the 76 points I got there from basically just surviving that race ended up actually contributing to my overall total, although it would be the lowest points that would actually count. I think I'd have been able to get more points than that if I hadn't been ill and I'd been able to do round 10 at Road America, but nevertheless it's just really funny how these things work out because I wasn't even going to do that Nürburgring race in the first place. But in terms of the guy who was currently in the lead of the championship, if I outscored him, the way that the points worked out was such that basically he needed 25 points more than whatever I managed to get in this final round. If I scored 87 points to bring my total to 800, he'd need to score 112 to repass me in the one day between me doing these races and the season actually ending for good. But ultimately for me, none of it really mattered. In the end, I just needed to score as many points as I possibly could and maximise the races. And that is ultimately what I managed to do in this first race, despite the little wobble around laps 4 and 5 where I kind of lost a lot of time. But I managed to get through that little wobble, regain my composure, set some really quick lap times in the second half of the race, pulled away from everybody, ended up 4 seconds down the road from second place, my teammate Reese, and I managed to take the win. And it was such a relief because, you know, there's so much pressure in that kind of situation. I've never really been in that kind of situation before, and I know it's kind of just it's just a Division 4 iRacing championship in fixed touring cars. It's quite obscure, but it's still a championship. It's still something that you're going for, and the pressure was still on. I needed to score good points. I didn't know what kind of points I would get for this race, but I knew I'd done basically the best that I possibly could given the situation that I was in. And yeah, if say I'd had a bad race in this one and then I had one more race to go and the pressure was really on in that next race, and you know, it could just spiral downwards as it can so easily happen. But I managed to come straight out of the gate in the first race and get a win, which was my third win of the season, and it came at exactly the right moment. Yes! Come on! Yes! Oh my god!
See you in victory line.
And we got that 1-2. We got that 1-3-2-2-1-2. Oh, yes! Oh, I needed that. GG Reese on the second RBS. We got that 1-3-2-2-1-2 that we couldn't get last week. Thanks for all the GGs in the chat. I friggin' did it! Oh, the pressure. I couldn't have done more. Like, I've done as much as I could do points-wise. I was really happy with my pace. I had a little wobble in the middle. I was looking at the timing too much, and I didn't even need to because I knew that Reese was behind me, so I had like a rear gunner, and I was still pulling away from third and fourth. But I was just getting distracted and too in my own head. So I had a little wobble on laps 5 and 6, and then I brought it back down again. And I'm really happy with that 32.6. How many points is it going to be, though? 84. That's a bloody good haul of points, actually. I would absolutely take that. I did get best lap, so I got a Grand Slam. Pole position, led every lap, best lap. I think that might be the first ever proper Grand Slam I've ever had. And to get it in the final race where I need it for the championship, back on the track that I started touring cars on, in like, it was episode 28 or something, where I did a load of different cars to see what I liked, and touring cars was the first thing that I did. I first did it on Laguna Seca, back on that track when there's a championship on the line. That's put me back into the lead of the championship. That's amazing. It's all come full circle. And yeah, by a tenth of a second from Reese. So we had a 1-3-2-2 crew member, first and second in the race and best lap. That's amazing. RBS got his best lap when I was having my wobble. So yeah, that's why he closed up. I mean, it was pretty closely matched best lap wise, but yeah, the Grand Slam. Yes! Yeah, so I got 84 championship points for first place in second split. First place in third split only got 54 championship points because it all goes based on the overall strength of field. Whereas top split, 8th place was enough to get more points, but obviously it's much more difficult to get up in that 8th place in a top split. We've got one more race to do, so I'm going to give it a go. Maybe I'll be in top split with the extra iRating that I got from winning that race. But I mean, I maximized the split that I was in, so there's not much more I can do than that, and it has put me back into the championship lead by about 20-ish points or something. So it's the guy who was in second is going to have to get like over 100 points, I think, to be able to overhaul me again in the next day. I'm very happy. What a race. That's one of my best races to come at the exact right moment. So I was back in the lead of the championship, but there was one more race to do because I'd normally just do 2 of these races, 2 of these fixed setup races every time. I didn't bother doing the open setup race in between this time, and I was back in top split for this race, so at least I had some opportunity to potentially improve my score if I happened to have a good race. In the end, it was quite a messy race. It certainly wasn't anywhere near as I wasn't as quick as I was in the first race, and it was more battling in the mid pack, obviously, because in the top split race you've got the absolute quickest guys who are sort of off in the distance. But I did end up managing to improve my score. I had made a little mistake right at the end. I was sort of defending from 2 guys. I ended up dropping back behind them, and then they started battling, and I was able to get up a position at the very end, but contact was needed to be able to do that, and when I looked at the replay I realised it was my fault and I kind of should have backed out, so I apologised to the guy. But that final overtake actually got me some extra points, and I ended up with, it was only 2 more points than the win, but you know, finishing, I think it was 9th place in this race, got me 2 more points than finishing 1st place in the second split race. Did he go for a move? Oh my god.
Right side. Keep
No!
on your left. Clear. Slow car ahead. Car stopped ahead.
9th. We'll see how many points it gets me. That's all that really matters. I think that's on me, honestly. I think my speed carry... Yeah, I go into him. I should have checked up, really. 86. So I've gotten 2 more points from my... Did I get 84? I got 84, right, in the last race. So if I hadn't done that takeout at the end and got that extra position, I wouldn't have even got more points. I would have got 76 points and the first race would have counted. So... And that puts me on, I think that puts me on 799 points for the championship. I missed out on 800 points by 1 point. Although if I'd managed to stay ahead of those 2, I would have got 95 points. But that's what I'm saying, like, you know, winning that middle split race got me less championship points than finishing 9th in this race. Only by 2, but, I mean, I'll take it, I suppose. It was a bit of a scruffy, action-packed race, that one. Wasn't as clean as the first. But I'll take it. I wasn't as quick as I was in the first either. But that's the touring car season done. I've got 1 more day to wait now to see if I become champion. I need the other guy needs to get like over 110 points or something in one of these races over the next day to overhaul me again. So, with those extra 2 points, was it enough to win the championship? Well, the guy who was in 2nd place, who'd just been put back into 2nd place, he did actually do some more races after I did these to try and improve his score again, but he wasn't able to improve it. The 90 points that he got from his first race would end up being his best. He would end up the season on 779 points, and I would finish the season in the lead of the Division 4 Championship on 799. 20 points ahead of 2nd place, and I won the championship. I won the iRacing Season 4 Division 4 Touring Car Fixed Championship. Again, I know it's a fairly obscure thing, but it makes me happy. You know, it's an achievement, and I never expected that I would do something like that. When you compare my point score this season to my touring car scores last season, the difference is like remarkable. I've almost doubled my points. It would have been nice to get 800 points and you know, have an average of 100 for every single race, but of all the races that counted. But you know, in the end, the second race here didn't matter. I still would have won the championship with my win from the first race. The Nürburgring race, even if I hadn't done that, the 63 points would have counted from what I was trying to improve this time, and I still would have won the championship. So it's been a really interesting season. I've had some really great moments. I ended up with 3 wins, 3 pole positions. I've had some great races. And again, compared to last season, I had 0 wins. So it's been a massive improvement over the 2 seasons. And it's only when you kind of look back at that sort of improvement and those differences from season to season that you realize how much you're improving. And I'm just really happy to have achieved something like that. Again, I know it's fairly obscure, but it's such an achievement, and I've got to take these things and be happy about it. I've won an iRacing championship, and I had to put in a lot of effort to do it when you think about it. And people were coming in and potentially going to beat me, and then never did. And I had to keep scoring good points. The start of my season really helped, I think, because I got such high point scores in some of the early races with some, great drives in some of the top split races, sort of punching above my weight a little bit. But then I had to maintain it for the rest of the season, and I was still able to get some good points, even on something like Red Bull Ring last week, where I didn't really feel like I was performing very well and I'd absolutely tanked my safety rating. I still got a good result in terms of championship points, and that's all that matters when it comes to these championship situations. So yeah, really happy to have got a win in my final race as well. And yeah, to end the season with 3 wins and the championship victory as well. It's crazy. I couldn't have asked for more than that. So yeah, very happy. I am going to take a little bit of a break from iRacing now for the next season and figure out where I want to go next and what I want to do. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and for all the support that you've shown me. I know these videos don't get as many views as anything else that I put up, but for those of you that do watch and enjoy following along my journey, thank you for being here, and I hope you've enjoyed. And yeah, there will be more to come with iRacing in the future as well. So that's pretty much it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.